Hello, family. Thanks for joining me again. So this week we're going to talk about who we are and why we were made. So let's take a look at Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 through 27. And here we see God is creating the universe and creating the earth and everything. And so verse 26, Genesis chapter 1 says, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness." So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female, he created them. And God saw all that he made, and it was very good. And it's actually interesting because when you look at verse 31, it says, when we're talking about how God created mankind, it says that it was very good. And when you look at everything else that God had created, God saw it and said it was good. So I thought it was very interesting how in Genesis it says that when mankind was created, that God thought it was very good. And that was because we were made for a purpose. You know, I believe that we are divinely designed by an all-powerful God. And he was pleased when he created us, because it said it was very good and what he created. In Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6, it says, he calls us his treasured possessions. And in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, Paul tells us that we are God's workmanship and we are God's masterpiece. So when you look at this, you see that God really was proud of the creation of mankind. But why did God create humanity? What was the purpose of it? He created us like him so that we could have consciousness and then choose to commune and have a relationship with him. God tells us in Isaiah chapter 43, verse 21, that we are the people that I formed for myself. So God is saying he created this people, meaning us, for himself. And he knew us before we were even born, because in Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 4-5, it says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart and I appointed you." And that's such an amazing verse when you think about that. Before you were even born, I knew you and I set you apart and I appointed you. So that means even before our birth, God had a specific plan for us. He gave us specific gifts and talents, and he appointed us to do certain things during our time here on earth. So when you think about that, it's an amazing thing. We weren't created by accident. We didn't come here by chance or by accident or some misfortune, but God created each and every one of us with a specific purpose, and he created us with such a divine design, with a design purpose. There's a late world famous philosopher. His name is Sir Anthony Flew, and he was a leading atheist in England. And he renounced his atheism and accepted the existence of a divine intelligence that was behind everything in all creation. In his book, There Is a God, How the World's Most Notorious Atheist Changed His Mind, he wrote something very interesting. It says, "What I think the DNA material has done is that it has shown, by the almost unbelievable complexity of the arrangements which are needed to produce life, that intelligence must have been involved in getting these extraordinarily diverse elements to work together." So I know that sounds like a lot, but this world-renowned atheist is saying, even when you study the DNA and how complex it is, it's hard to deny that a creator actually created this, and to say it happened by chance is not something that he was willing to accept. And so I think that's an amazing testimony by an atheist. So what does all this mean? So God created us. Okay, let's accept that. What does all that mean? Well, it doesn't just stop there. God didn't just create us. We have this inner longing to have a relationship with God. We have this inner longing that we want to be involved in something more deeper, a spiritual meaning. And C.S. Lewis actually found an amazing word. It's actually a German word called Sehnsucht. And what this word, when you translate in German, it's a longing, a deep yearning, or a type of like intensely missing something. It's actually hard to describe that in the English language. There's no word that can actually take that meaning, Sehnsucht, the word Sehnsucht, and kind of put it all in one English word. But it's almost like a profound, unquenchable yearning of something is missing. And really what it is at its root, it's a yearning to have a relationship with God. Okay? So many people who do not know this who do not know God actually know that they have this feeling. A lot of people say, oh, there's got to be more. There's something missing in my life. And so if they don't know God, then they try to fill that void with so many other things. You try to fill that void with accomplishments or goals or achievements or even relationships. Sometimes we get into bad relationships, unfortunately, or we think, okay, when I get married, I'll feel fulfilled, or when I have children, I'll feel fulfilled, or when I become the vice president or CEO of a company, then I'm going to feel fulfilled. No matter what happens, no matter how many things you achieve in your life, and you can see that because you see, whether you're a famous person or someone that has all the money in the world and all the fame in the world, they fall, unfortunately, to so many different temptations and so many different sins because, even with all the accomplishments and all the achievements and all the money that they could have had in their lives, there's still something missing. And so that thing that's missing is this relationship or communion with God. So this is why so many of us are lost today, because all these things that we try to satisfy, it doesn't last long, And so what we're missing is this communion with the Creator, and that's a relationship with God. So when we have worship, when we have true, meaningful worship, that's our connection with God. When we acknowledge and focus on Him, that's when the Holy Spirit gives us peace and comfort. So no matter what your situation, you may think you're going through a difficult situation, or you haven't reached your potential talents or achievements yet, the Holy Spirit will give you peace and comfort because everything is going through a specific time. And because you have that relationship with God, you're not longing for anything else. You're not trying to fill that void with other things, but you're just making sure you follow God's will and achieve the accomplishments that He has set planned for you. So God is worthy of all our worship because He is God, and He wants to connect with us through our worship. That's God's desire, to be with Him, for us to seek Him and to try to worship Him. God made you, and He made you so that we could be with Him. He made you to have a relationship with Him. We were made by Him, and we were made for Him, right? So it's an amazing concept when you see that God, we talked about last week, who is God? And why do we worship Him? Because He's this amazing God that created the universe. But we also see this week that He created the universe, but He also created us. And He created us so special. He created us so uniquely with certain gifts and talents. And, when we use those talents and gifts to glorify God and to encourage other people, and when we have a great relationship with God through prayer, through worship, then we'll have that fulfillment. Not everything is going to be perfect. You might still feel sad and upset or worried about certain things, but at the same time, you'll know that God has a certain plan for you, and you'll have that comfort because you have that relationship and peace through the Holy Spirit. All right? So let's take a look at the reflection for this week. Do you have an inner longing for a deeper connection with God? Why or why not? And how can worship help bring you closer to Him? So, do you have that fulfillment that I talked about? That's something that was missing. Do you have that fulfillment? Are you achieving that through the worship team? Maybe if not, that's something you should sit down and pray and figure out why you are not having that connection with God. And how can your worship bring you closer to Him? Talk with your group and see what are some ways that you guys as a group can worship. I know there's a lot of responsibilities on the stage, but even when you're on stage, you should be able to worship and focus on God. All right. So I hope hope this lesson was beneficial to you, and I look forward to speaking with you again next week. All right. Thanks. God bless.